When you travel the world for a year, you see and experience so much, and we want to share our daily travels with you. Unfortunately, a hard drive failure means we have to tell the middle a little bit differently. So, welcome to Storytime with the Happy Hoppies in this edition of The Lost Episodes.
Alright, so the last video we were up in the northern part of Israel, and today we're headed south. On our way down to the Dead Sea, we stopped at this park. It was kind of a little park up on the top of the hill, but it's Tel Meggido National Park. And there was like nobody else there. We could have paid to go on this little walking tour to see the ruins and the sites up at the top, but instead we're just like, we'll just go ahead and snap a few photos of what we can see from the parking lot and then be on our way. And we went inside too, actually, and looked around the little visitor center. So it was interesting, but
we had a lot to do that day, and so
there's a lot to do.
It wasn't on our top priority list.
Lisa's not a huge fan of ruins.
Nope.
So we saw what we could and continued on. And as we drove south, the further south we went, we realized how green and how much vegetation there was up in the north part versus the south part. Because as we started getting down to, I think it was Arad, and then getting down to close to the Dead Sea, it's just really deserty and no greenery at all. And we're like, wow, you just see the stark contrast between the south, the desert, and the north and the greenery. And for some reason, at least for me, I always pictured Israel and where Jesus grew up as more of the deserty area. But up in the north, it was really quite nice, very green.
Yeah, so that was definitely cool to see and be there and be like, oh, so where Jesus grew up around the Sea of Galilee, that was green. So yeah, it was cool just to see, be there. And as we were driving down south, we did have it routed to go down to Beersheba, just so we would avoid going through the West Bank. Technically, that would have been a more direct route, but we didn't want to drive through there.
It was advised for us not to. So in that deserty area, as we were getting close to the Dead Sea, we actually pulled over because we saw this little valley, this little ravine. I was like, this would be kind of a cool place to fly the drone just for a second. And it's like the middle of nowhere, should be all right. So we went ahead, pulled over, flew the drone up and down that valley just a little bit, and then hopped in the car and continued on.
And because it was on Peter's hard drive and not just mine, we still have that footage.
We got down to where you could see the Dead Sea, and then we zipped up along kind of the edge of it up to Masada and then Gedi. Which one was first? Masada.
Right? It's a national park, because actually Masada is a town on the north part.
And it was really cool. The visitor center was awesome. And you could either take a long, hot hike up to the top to be able to see the ruins from the fortress at the top of this mountain, or they had a cable car that would run you up there for a fee. And we would have done it, but the tour and going back and forth took a little bit of time, and we were running out of daylight fast, and we wanted to make it down to the Dead Sea to be able to go float in the Dead Sea before dark. So we had to do that today, or we weren't going to have time to do it.
Because we were flying out the next day. So, we probably should have had an extra day
Would have been nice.
In Israel. It would have been nice. I don't think that worked with the flight route though.
Right,
with the timing, with the flights in and out, it just didn't work. And so anyways, yes, we definitely could have used an extra day in Israel. Masada did look cool. We went to the visitor center and kind of saw that, and saw video of what the town looked like. And even though those are ruins, to me that looked cool.
And it's just so cool. This fortress up on top of the city, and the video showing what the battle was like, and the fortifications, and the reason why they did this, and why it's such a great place. It's such a key stronghold to have. But the video was really neat. I'm glad we got to see that at least, even though we didn't go up to the top. But if we go back again, that would be something I would like to do.
And we did think about, because it was $28 per person for the cable ride back and forth. which isn't too much, but like it was like $20 if you like hiked it one way. And so we did also briefly consider that, but it was rather hot that day. And I, for the first time of the entire trip, I used this hat that my friend had given me because when she went to Israel, she bought like this, like, you know, basically like this like explorer hat.
Little safari hat.
Little safari hat, kind of kept the sun out.
Rim all the way around.
Yes, because it was rather hot. And it was like a foldable one that I had with me for the whole trip, but that was the only time I used it. But I don't have video or pictures of it, sorry. I didn't look that cute in it anyways. It's not that flattering.
So then we went on up to Gedi.
The Dead Sea is shrinking by 1 meter per year. And so because of that, there are a lot of sinkholes and things that used to be public beaches are now closed. There is like one like official resort that is actually on the Dead Sea where you can do like the mud and everything like that. And that's called Gedi Spa and Resort. And so we walked in there, very strong smell of sulfur. And it was like $20 US each for a bus just to drive you to it and then drive you back.
And that was the only way you could access it is if you paid it.
And it wasn't that far. Like, we're like, well, can we just, you know, walk it? And they're like, no, they won't let you in unless you come on the bus. And I was like, okay, so what else does that $20 include? Just the bus to get you down there.
Well, it's access.
And access.
You're getting access to it. So.
Right, I know, but it's like, okay, so then we were like, there has to be a way to be able to see it and be in there without having to pay $20 US just for a bus to take us down there. So we drove a little bit farther, and then we found this place. This probably wasn't the smartest idea, but it said no swimming. So we're like, okay, we won't swim, but we can at least go, you know, maybe just like feel the water. But there was a reason it said no swimming there, because the walk out to it, there were a lot of sinkholes.
And they did have signs warning you to be careful.
Yeah.
The spot that we chose to go walk out to, there was another tour group out there where they were walking around, they were digging around, doing stuff. So we're like, okay, if they're walking around, this is probably a safe place for us to go. So we just kind of followed the path they had taken out. So we kind of knew, we figured they probably knew what they were doing, because it looked like one guy was kind of the guide to these other people that were with him in his group. And they were pausing and talking about different things. He had like a little speaker on him and stuff. So we figured he knew what he was talking about, so we could just follow them. So that's why we chose where we accessed and came back.
Yes. And so we're walking, I think I have my flip-flops on because, well, we're about to go to the beach. And walking, and walking in flip-flops along this like dry, crusty sand, because it was salty, it like formed sometimes like these like peaks.
It was really sharp.
Very sharp.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
And you're walking around, it's going crunch, crunch, and you're just wondering like, okay, am I gonna step on something that's also gonna give way to like a sinkhole, and you're gonna fall through to who knows how far down.
And like feel the water, and then here come these two other guys, and like they get in the water and like start applying mud to themselves. And I was like, well, they're not swimming, but I don't think we should do this here. We can go down to where we know is another public beach down in Bokek. And so we were like, well, I probably butchered that name, sorry. But I knew that, we could do that. So we're like, well, there'll probably be mud there. So we didn't apply the mud up when we were in Gedi, but we did feel the water, and it was like immediately your hands almost get like a white film over them because it is so salty. So we safely made it back to our car, walking across the crunchiness. Drove a little bit farther down, but then technically in Bokek,
I want to say it's Bokek, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, Bokek.
Which one is it?
I don't know. But then when we got there, they have the Dead Sea there, but it's not technically the Dead Sea. I think they've dug it up to like extend the Dead Sea, because the majority of the Dead Sea is actually in the West Bank area. And Gedi is like that short little spot that still is part of the Dead Sea.
The original Dead Sea.
But because there's so many sinkholes, it has shut down so many of the spas that have been there. And so in Bokek, it's just a little bit more tourism friendly. That's where most of the hotels are. There's tons of spas and things like that.
A really nice, like, long sandy beach and like a little boardwalk along there.
It was beautiful.
They had these little, water spigots where you could rinse off. So it was super, super nice. And we went out there, took our GoPro out, floated around. I think we lost that footage too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and then it might have been that salt in the Dead Sea that later killed the GoPro, we think.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Even though it's like waterproof GoPro, like I think the salt just ate away at the case or something, and it didn't work
rinsed
later
it
on.
off afterwards, but apparently I didn't rinse it good enough or something. I don't know. Maybe it just got old. Maybe it was just all the travel.
And we don't even have the footage to show you.
Anyway, but it was super fun just floating around in the Dead Sea. It was
so
such
cool.
a different experience because there's so much salt. It makes you so buoyant. You're just like popping and floating around like different directions. It's so weird. You can like float on your belly, float on your side.
Yeah.
Super fun and really cool experience for sure.
Like you're floating and you are literally like, okay, stand up. You have to use like all your effort to stand up. And then if you get to stand, you're able to actually stand, there's like these salt pellets that are like this big. Some of them are smaller, but like there are salt pellets that you're like walking in. So instead of walking in sand or walking in rocks, it's like these huge salt pellets. It was awesome.
I think they had sand in like the shallower parts that they had pushed out, but then as you got deeper, if you went down the bottom, you'd find those rougher salt pebbles.
And my favorite thing was about being there was like listening to other people's conversations. There were several English speakers around us, and like people like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm on the moon, and it was just like
the way you're floating around like that. It's kind of that feeling, or what you see when you see people that are an astronaut in space.
It felt like there was no gravity because you were just floating. It was so cool. The funny thing is that there was a tour group that came up, and maybe they didn't know they were going to the Dead Sea that day, or maybe they just didn't care. They were like some older ladies and they just decided that they wanted to go in the Dead Sea even though they didn't have any swimsuit on. And so they just went in their underwear. So they just like took their skirt off and like went in their underwear. It was just like, okay, this is a little weird, but if you're there at the Dead Sea, you have to go in. And we were also dedicated because as soon as we got in there, the sun had just went behind the cliffs, and it actually got really cold really fast. So even though it had been like super hot in the day, as soon as that sun was gone, it was cold. You hear about in the desert how you actually can freeze in the desert at nighttime.
Right.
Like, I got it because we were freezing. But I was like, I don't care. This is our only time to be in the Dead Sea. And we got here like right before dark. We're staying in. So we stayed in for about an hour.
A quick tip, when you're at the Dead Sea, I thought, hey, this is supposed to be good for you, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and submerge my entire body. So I went under, dunked my head, and then came back up and tried to wipe the water off my face. Bad idea, because that salt just sticks to everything, and of course it's on your hands, it's all over your eyes, and when you try to wipe it off, it doesn't really completely wipe off. So then I got salt in my eye and it stung like crazy.
So he had to get out.
So I had to get out and like go get a towel and like wipe my eyes so I'd be okay, and then go back in. But anyway, just don't dunk your head in. It's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I was like, Peter, well, why would you dunk your head? Like,
it's good for you.
Keep your eyes out of the water.
Gotta do whatever I can for the top of my head, man.
Well, then dunk your head this way.
Nah, I know, but I was like, it's good for your face, good for everything. Come on.
Yeah, but we were like,
They didn't have the mud there, by the way.
Oh yeah, and so unfortunately there wasn't mud there. So had I known that, we may have put some mud on ourselves when we were up in the Gedi area. Because we weren't swimming, we were just applying at the edge, because you didn't really have to get in very far to get the mud.
So then we went on to our hotel, which we had booked through Expedia, I believe it was. We got there, and it was so funny because like the guy that was like running the place came out, greeted us at the car, found us
In the parking
and
lot.
He's like, hey, he's like talking about his day or something. He was like, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and give you a great upgrade to a bigger place, nicer place, because like I didn't want to like clean the other one. It's like the end of the day, I'm ready to go home kind of thing. So he walked us into this really nice place, showed us around. Goodbye. He like left, and I'm like. He didn't check our ID, ask our name, like, are we in the right place? Are we getting somebody else's room? And then I checked and there was a little welcome basket with some oranges or tangerines or something on the table, which is super cool. And then there was a note and it had our name. It was the invoice and it said the Hoppies. I was like, wow, so you know it's us. We got the right place, but
It was the
crazy.
strangest thing. It was the easiest check-in by far.
it was more like an Airbnb because
Yeah.
you had like a living area, you had the bathroom, you had the kitchen, you had a bedroom. Might have been 2 bedrooms. I think
Yes,
there were a couple
it was
bedrooms.
2 bedrooms.
It was so nice. And then, you know, they had like a little jacuzzi tub that we kind of soaked in, like rinsed off and stuff too. And then we couldn't figure out how to unplug after we had, you know, put the plug in for the tub. We couldn't figure out how to get out. So I had like a knife to try to pry it out. And finally I found like the little button or thing that you had to do to like get it to pop up.
It took him a solid like 30 minutes to figure that out.
Hey,
And
she looked too. She couldn't find it.
no, I couldn't find
We
it.
both looked. I'm like, what am I missing? There's got to be something obvious.
Yeah,
here.
but we were like, well, he just gave us this upgrade. We don't want to leave the bathroom with dirty bath water in it. But anyways, we figured it out. But
Thankfully.
the weird thing is I remember, and we just found this in at least a couple other bathrooms later on in our trip. There was like a drainage thing in the middle of the bathroom. It's kind of like what you would see in a shower or things like that, but it was in the middle of the bathroom. And when we let the water out, some of that water started coming up through the drainage. So then we finally figured out how to drain the tub, and now we have this problem where there is water, and it was very salty water because we had all the salt on us from the Dead Sea. So the water also kind of like smelled, and it was just like
Sulfur.
and it was just, oh my goodness. When we used all the towels that were there, like a 2 or 3 bedroom place, so they had a lot of towels there for all the different people that would have stayed there. I felt so bad. We had to use all those towels to soak up the water. It was a little bit of a mess, but it was great. We got a good night's sleep.
Tomorrow we head further south to drop off our rental car and go to the airport to head out of the country. At least where we think the airport was. That's another story for tomorrow.
See ya.